What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be talking about a very interesting situation in relation to the NBA draft. It looks like the Chicago Bulls, amongst other teams out there in the NBA, are looking to trade up in this upcoming NBA draft to go and pursue a specific type of player. Who is that player? Is it worth taking a chance and trading up in this NBA draft? Well, we're going to talk about it a little bit more in this video. Before we get any further, if you liked the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and whether or not you believe we should be trading up in this NBA draft. And if we do such a thing, who would you like to see the Bulls select in the earlier draft picks that we might not get the opportunity to do with the 11th overall pick? With that being said, let's get stuck right into it. So, the Bulls, amongst other teams, are willing and able to trade up for this upcoming NBA draft in order to pursue Donovan Clingan. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a player that we've talked about before. He's a player that we've spoken very highly about. He's ultimately a player that's clearly impressed multiple teams and has clearly impressed the entire NBA scouting realm. And that is something that should be taken notice of. How I viewed him is how I always viewed him, in a sense, from watching his highlights, looking and taking notes, being one of the first earlier centers that we've talked about. Massive defensive capability. I think out of every center that we've talked about thus far, in my opinion at least, he is the one with the most defensive potential. I think he has the most potential in terms of blocks, the most defensive potential in terms of interior defense. I think he can keep up with guards very well. In my opinion, this is what makes him so special. And clearly other teams are looking at this too. So with that being said, you also need to ask, okay, the Bulls are willing to trade up. Is it that easy? Is it risky? What type of situations you have to come in that will need to come in front of you in order to make this successful? Well, as long as there's other teams involved in this, it will not be as straightforward as let's trade this first round pick and a second round pick to move up. It will be a lot more difficult than that because you're going to have to deal with every other team willing to make offers to go and pursue the upper class draft picks. It's as simple as that. So it's not going to be cut and dry as, hey, let's trade 2 picks for 1 pick, and that pick will be higher up in the draft. It won't be as simple as that. Ultimately, competition will always make things very interesting. And if there's going to be other teams in that competition, the Bulls need to be the one to take the initiative. They have to make the first step. They have to be the ultra-aggressive ones. They can't sit and wait. That's the message that I have for the Bulls. If you're going to take this seriously and you're going to trade up in this NBA draft, whether people like it or not, if that is your ultimate goal that you want to pursue, you need to take it seriously, you need to take the initiative, and you need to go right for it. Do not wait for OKC to come in and fail or for any other team to come in and fail, because ultimately, one of them might succeed and you will be left holding the bag and you will be left wondering what could have been. And then more and more and more people in 3, 4, 5 years' times will be saying, why didn't we trade up in the draft to go and get Donovan Clingan? You know what I mean? That's something you ultimately want to avoid as a Bulls fan if you have the chance. So if they're serious about this, take the initiative. But in saying that, the initiative might not be that hard to take because this is also considered a very weak NBA draft. It's considered one of the weakest NBA drafts in history. I've seen multiple people that were expected to go in the top 10 because of a bad, scouting or a bad NBA draft combine. They're sent all the way to the second round, or they're sent all the way to the mid-first, or they're sent all the way to the late first. It's bizarre. It's weird. This draft class is filled with so many unpredictabilities, it's almost impossible to truly be confident in the pick that you select. And there will always be what could have beens from this draft class. I'm guaranteeing it. But at the end of the day, because it is such a weak draft class, it could give the Bulls an avenue to not have to give up their entire franchise to go and get a first-round pick of the higher echelon. Some teams might not be interested in their first round pick this year. When you have so much unpredictability and when it is considered one of the weaker drafts and some teams don't need that pick this season, they might be willing to invest in next season or the season after in hopes that the draft will be stronger and the players that come in will be better. And that's something you have to be aware of. So if we're trading up in this draft, you might have to look at the teams that are not interested in their pick in this draft, and you won't have to give up a whole bunch in order to get that pick. So there's another step. The good and the bad. The bad, Teams are going to be fighting for picks as well. You will not be the only one. The good, since it is such a weak draft, you might be able to get away with not trading that much to get better in return. And also, it's not like the 2003 draft, for example, where it would be almost impossible to trade up in that type of draft, and it would take a miracle to do it. And if you did do it, fair play. But ultimately, that was a stacked draft class. The Luka Doncic draft class was stacked. The only trade that I remember was the Hawks and the Mavericks, in which the Hawks got Trae Young and the Mavericks got Luka Doncic. That's the only trade I can think of, but that was a very stacked draft class as well. So all these draft classes coming in that were strong, it will be hard to trade up into the top 3, top 4, top 5, whatever the case may be. This one might be a little bit easier. So keep your eyes on that also. But what are the risks? What are the risks involved with doing this trade and trading up? Well, the biggest risk is, what if a team trades up ahead of you and takes the player that you want? Ultimately, we could trade up and still not get the player that we want. That's a risk. It's a small risk, because I think the Bulls, if they're going to do it, they'll do it properly. I don't think that would be, let's go trade up for the 5th pick, for example, straight away, because then you give the opportunity for OKC to go and get the 4th pick. I think the Bulls will do it smartly. They'll wait for the pick to be there before they go and pursue the trade. So they are the ones on the clock when they do get the trade to go and stuff of that nature. Keep that in mind. Ultimately, it's still a risk, though. Another risk is, since this is a weak draft and there's so many unpredictabilities, what if Donovan Clingan is not the player that we expect him to be coming into the NBA? What if he's coming in as a very high potential prospect that doesn't live up to that potential? Ultimately, you've wasted draft compensation and whatever else we're going to be throwing at a certain NBA team to go and get this player that may not live up to the potential. There are a lot of centers that come into the NBA with potential on their shoulders. Guys like Jahlil Okafor, for example. I know he's not a center, but Anthony Bennett. These guys came in with so much potential, so much hype around them, so much, promise in many ways. And they've exited the league just as soon as they've come in. Even, for example, a guy like James Wiseman came in as seen as a superstar. People expected him to be a superstar in this league, and now he's a bench player that barely really gets that game time, and it's not fulfilled what we thought he would with the 2nd overall pick and as a center. It's as simple as that. So you're taking a lot of risks in that department. That potential might not be there, and therefore you might not be able to get the player that you're seeking, and you might risk too much to do it. Those are the risks. The benefits is you get the player that you expect him to be. You get a defensive weapon. You get someone that's going to help our rim protection. You get someone that could ultimately take over as the starting center in the future. You can get someone that hopefully can also improve his offensive repertoire and become a dual type of center that could do a little bit of everything. You could get your next cornerstone piece. You could get all these things with Donovan Clingan if he lives up to that potential. So the risk is he could be potentially nothing in this league. The potential is he could be an all-star level caliber player in this league. With that being said, do I think the Bulls should trade up in this NBA draft? The honest question and answer is, I got no idea. This is too unpredictable for me to give a straight answer. I've had friends that have said the Bulls should trade down. They feel like you can get anybody you want in this draft class. So you may as well trade down and get assets in return that could actually help you this season and take the hit. Trade the 11th pick away for the 16th overall pick or something and move on. Just live with what you've got. If this is so unpredictable and every single player in the draft class has potential to be an all-star but also to be a role player now to the league in 3 years, why not just take the chance and trade down? I've heard people say that. I've also heard people say trading up is the way to go, because the higher you go, the better opportunity you could get at getting a player that can help you. I honestly don't know. I don't have a problem with staying put with the 11th overall pick. I got no problems with what we do in this draft class because I see and view it as so unpredictable. But at the end of the day, the Bulls have to get it right. I don't care if we pick 30th in this NBA draft or we trade for the 1st pick in this NBA draft. Whatever we do, the Bulls need to get it right. That's it. End of discussion. If they don't get it right, so many fans are going to lose faith if they haven't already. They've got to get it right for our future, for our current team, and for the sake of the fans that are looking for some positivity to really grasp onto. I'll see you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.